They look like postcards. Crystal water catching afternoon light. Families on the shore. Kids in the shallows. Boats cutting white lines across a surface that appears from every angle available to the human eye, completely calm. That surface is the problem, because more than 4,000 people drown in the United States every single year, and a disproportionate share of those deaths happen not in the ocean, not in rivers, but in lakes that look from the bank like the safest, most inviting water in the world. The danger is almost never visible. It is sitting below the waterline, beneath the postcard, waiting for the exact combination of overconfidence, unfamiliarity, and bad luck that has ended the same way thousands of times before. These are the deadliest lakes in America, ranked by what's actually lurking below the surface. Number 6. Jacob's Well, Wimberley, Texas. Jacob's Well doesn't look like a death trap. It looks like a dream. A natural spring emerging from the Texas Hill Country limestone, feeding a crystal clear pool that glows turquoise in the summer light. Swimmers jump from the rocky ledge above it. The water is cold and inviting on a Texas afternoon when the temperature is pushing 100 degrees. From the surface, it looks like a swimming hole, nothing more. What is not visible from the surface is that Jacob's Well drops almost immediately to around 30 feet, then opens into an underwater cave system that descends to at least 140 feet in documented sections, and that the cave system branches, narrows, and shifts direction in ways that have disoriented and trapped experienced cave divers who entered with full equipment and training. Between 1964 and 1984 alone, 8 people died inside Jacob's Well's underwater cave network. The deaths were concentrated enough that authorities eventually banned recreational diving into the cave system entirely, classifying it off-limits to anyone without specific professional authorization. But the surface pool remains accessible, and the same beautiful, cold turquoise water that draws swimmers in also conceals the entrance to an underwater maze that has claimed lives even with the prohibition in place. The specific mechanism here is the one that kills most often in Jacob's Well. A swimmer goes under, finds the cave opening, and which is wide enough to enter and feels initially like it goes somewhere, and follows it down. The current from the spring pulls inward rather than out. The cave narrows. Visibility drops to near zero in stirred sediment, and the path back to the surface becomes, within seconds, impossible to navigate without equipment that almost no casual swimmer carries. The water above stays beautiful. It always stays beautiful. Number 5. Lake Piru, Ventura County, California. Lake Piru became widely known in 2020 when actress Naya Rivera drowned there during a boat trip with her 4-year-old son, who was found alone on the rental boat. Rivera's body was recovered several days later. She was 33, but Rivera was not the first. Lake Piru was created as a reservoir in 1955, flooding the Santa Clara River Valley in the process. What the flooding buried and preserved is still down there. Old trees, their root systems, their trunks, reaching upward from the lake bed in a network of submerged vegetation that operates for swimmers who get into trouble as a near-perfect entanglement system. Swimmers caught in underwater vegetation cannot always pull free. The same trees that were standing in the valley before the reservoir was filled are still standing, rooted, branched, and dense, at depths where the water temperature drops sharply, where panic sets in fast, and where the reduced visibility makes it impossible to see what is hold of you. Park authorities have attempted multiple interventions over the years, including restricting swimming and increasing signage. But the lake's physical structure, the submerged forest, The unpredictable temperature layers, the cold water shock that can incapacitate a swimmer within seconds of entering deeper water, is not something that can be cleared or fixed. It's simply what the reservoir is built on top of. Vai Xuandong, who disappeared at Lake Peru in 2000, wasn't found until nearly a month later. The lake doesn't always give back what it takes, and when it does, it takes its time. Number 4. Lake Mead, Nevada and Arizona. Lake Mead is the largest reservoir in the United States by volume, and according to park historians who have tracked fatality data across the entire national park system, it has logged more deaths than any other national park site in the country across recent decades. From 2014 to 2021 alone, 145 deaths were recorded at Lake Mead National Recreation Area, averaging roughly 18 per year across a period that doesn't include several of its more dangerous years. The leading causes are drowning and boating accidents, but the environment itself amplifies every risk factor. Summer temperatures in the surrounding Mojave Desert regularly exceed 45 degrees Celsius. Heat exhaustion sets in before most visitors realize they're in serious trouble, and the lake's cold, deep water, up to 150 meters in depth, produces a thermal shock response when overheated bodies enter it that can incapacitate even strong, experienced swimmers almost instantly. But Lake Mead has added a more recent danger to its existing list. As the lake has dropped dramatically due to drought, losing more than 35 meters of water level over the past 2 decades, it has begun surfacing things that were hidden for decades. Between May and August of 2022 alone, 5 sets of human remains emerged from the receding shoreline. Some showed evidence of being submerged for decades. Some came with details investigators are still working through. What is becoming clear as the water continues to drop is that Lake Mead has been hiding things for a very long time. And as the shoreline retreats, it is showing them to us one by one. Number 3. Lake Lanier, Georgia. Lake Lanier draws roughly 12 million visitors every year to its shores just north of Atlanta, making it one of the busiest recreational lakes in the entire country. It is also, by accumulated death toll, frequently described as the single deadliest lake in the United States. More than 700 documented deaths have occurred at Lake Lanier since it was created by the Army Corps of Engineers in 1956. In 2023 alone, 13 people died there. The U.S. Army Corps estimates the long-term fatality rate at approximately 0.6 deaths per million visits, unusually high for a single reservoir in a country with no shortage of dangerous water. The reason is what's underneath. When Lake Lanier was created, it did not flood an empty valley. It flooded communities, homes, roads, cemeteries, entire towns, and decades of accumulated human infrastructure. All of it is still down there. Dive teams responding to drowning incidents in Lake Lanier are not descending into clean, open water. They are descending into a submerged landscape of tree stumps, building foundations, road surfaces, fence lines, and debris that shift with water levels, create entanglement hazards at every depth, and reduce visibility to near zero in most conditions. A diver interviewed by Atlanta's WXIA described diving in Lake Lanier as probably the most dangerous thing he had ever done, specifically because of entanglement hazards that appear without warning and cannot be navigated without significant risk, even with full professional equipment. The Hall County Sheriff's dive team is called out roughly 13 times per year. Members have been trapped by floating tarps, tangled in fishing line, and disoriented by underwater landmarks that change each time water levels shift. The lake buries its dead in a landscape of its own making, and the people who go in after them face the same hazards that killed the person they're trying to retrieve. Number 2. Lake Tahoe, California and Nevada. Lake Tahoe is one of the most photographed lakes in America. The clarity of the water, historically among the clearest freshwater in the world. The mountain backdrop, the deep cobalt blue. It photographs like something designed rather than natural. What that clarity conceals is depth. Lake Tahoe is the second deepest lake in the United States, reaching approximately 501 meters at its deepest point, and maintaining temperatures cold enough, at depth, to prevent the decomposition that would normally return drowned victims to the surface. This is the detail about Lake Tahoe that most visitors are never told. People who drown in Lake Tahoe frequently do not surface. The cold, deep water preserves bodies rather than returning them. There are documented cases of drowning victims at Lake Tahoe who were never recovered. Not because the searches were inadequate, but because the lake's depth and temperature keep bodies on the bottom indefinitely, preserved in the cold, beyond the reach of the dive technology available for recovery operations. A long-standing local legend holds that the lake's depth contains perfectly preserved bodies from drowning incidents going back decades. And while the legend has been amplified beyond what researchers can fully verify, the underlying science is accurate. At sufficient depth and sufficiently cold temperatures, the biological processes that create buoyancy after death are simply suppressed. The lake keeps what enters it. Beyond the depth, Lake Tahoe's surface conditions can shift faster than visitors expect. Sudden storms develop across the mountain basin with little warning. Water temperatures even in summer are cold enough to induce cold water shock within minutes of submersion. And unexpected drop-offs near popular swimming areas have sent confident swimmers into water far beyond their ability to handle, with no gradual warning from the lake itself. Number 1. Lake Michigan. Lake Michigan is the deadliest lake in America by total fatalities, and it is not a close competition. Since 2010, the Great Lakes Surf Rescue Project has documented more than 600 drownings on Lake Michigan, far more than any other Great Lake, and more than most other freshwater bodies of comparable popularity anywhere in the country. In 2023 alone, 41 people drowned in Lake Michigan, nearly half of all Great Lakes drownings that year. In 2025, it accounted for 19 of the first 42 Great Lakes drownings before summer had even fully arrived. The mechanism is specific, documented, and consistent across nearly every fatal incident. Rip currents and longshore currents generated by Lake Michigan's unique geography, moving across sandy lake beds with no offshore reef system to disrupt them, building speed and force that no warning sign fully prepares a visitor for. Lake Michigan's rip currents can reach 8 kilometers per hour, faster than almost any human swimmer can sustain even in ideal conditions, and far faster than someone caught off guard in cold water, in clothes, without preparation. The standard instruction, "Don't swim against a rip current, swim a parallel to shore," requires someone to remain calm, oriented, and physically capable in conditions that produce exactly the opposite of all three. What makes Lake Michigan specifically lethal, beyond the current data, is the combination of massive visitation. Over 20 million people visit its beaches every year, with almost no lifeguard coverage across large stretches of its 2,500-kilometer shoreline. The beaches look like beaches. They have sand, families, and summer light. They do not all have lifeguards or warning flags or any visible evidence of what the water is capable of producing within a few meters of where children are playing at the edge. The National Weather Service and multiple lake safety organizations have described Lake Michigan as the most dangerous of the Great Lakes repeatedly over the past decade, and the data keeps confirming it. The lake does not look different from the others. It does not warn you. The current that catches you cannot be seen from the bank. Here is what connects every lake on this list, and it is worth holding directly. None of them look dangerous. That is not a coincidence. It is the defining mechanism of every single fatality on this list. Jacob's Well glows turquoise. Lake Tahoe photographs like a painting. Lake Lanier fills with 12 million visitors who look at the water and see a summer afternoon, not a submerged town with 700 deaths attached to it. The CDC reports roughly 4,000 annual drowning deaths in the United States, and more than half of those involving people over 15 occur in natural water. Not pools, not bathtubs, not the ocean as most people picture it, but in exactly the kind of lakes on this list, on exactly the kind of days when nothing looks wrong. The most dangerous thing about American lakes is not what lurks below. It is how completely the surface conceals it.